Let's talk about a couple other big names from WWE, or one who's in WWE and one who I don't know if is in WWE, in the media. There has been a very interesting back and forth, if you will, in the media over the last week between someone who works for The Rock, Brian Gewirtz, former WWE writer, and the WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. I'm going to read a couple quotes for you here. There's Brian in the middle there between Rock and Cody. Read a couple quotes for you on this. Brian was on the Masked Man show and said, was asked about the whole Cody, Rock, Roman thing. And he said, Cody is a human being. I quote this from Brian. Cody is a human being who is genuine and real. He wears his heart and his emotion on his sleeve. In Alabama, certainly, even if you tell me, quote, that never will work, it's stupid to propose it, the idea was supposed to be, it's like the Nixon-Kennedy debate a little bit when you read the transcript, you're like, Nixon kicked his ass. That's a very old reference out there. This is before debates were, openly and all the time televised. Richard Nixon is not as pretty as John F. Kennedy. And if you listen to the debate, it sounded like Nixon won because of his words. If you watched it, JFK looked better. Okay, so that's the kind of reference he's using in 2024, which I'm sure connects with so many of the current WWE fan base. And he continues, if you watch the actual footage, quote, oh, he was a sweaty, terrible mess. Cody was supposed to be in some form, quote, yeah, F&A, go get him. Rock, you're going to get your ass kicked, Roman. Let's go do this. And this uplifting promo. Instead, he looked like someone shot his dog in the face in the parking lot. And he continues, I don't think helped matters. It might not have changed or affected anything. Certainly on paper, I don't blame Cody for that. Certainly sounds like he just did. He's real and one of the realest people I ever met. He said what he had to say in the promo, but you couldn't mask what he was really feeling. And I think the fans felt a lot of that. They felt like he doesn't mean a word of this. This is being forced for him to say. Because it was. Because Cody was on Busted Open today and kind of responded. He said, I found out about the possibility of Rock versus Roman the day of the Royal Rumble, and I had to leave that room, head up, and make sure no one knew what could possibly happen, and probably on one of the more difficult days I've had in the wrestling business. But also, how can you complain when you're winning the Royal Rumble, when you're pointing at the sign with over 20,000 people in Tampa? It was such a high, such a low. And I think that is Cody taking a high road. I think that's Cody going, you know what? It all worked out for me in the end. I am the WWE champion. I did defeat The Rock. But why is someone so close to The Rock kind of throwing Cody under the bus there? Did it need to be said? I'll make a guess right now. They'll play this into the next time that they actually face off. They'll use this. I'm kind of at a loss that anything negative would be said about Cody Rhodes after everything that's gone down. Everybody knows the right call was made. The fact that Roman Rock, which I believe, and I said this when I worked there, was the reason so many tickets were sold on that opening weekend for WrestleMania in Hollywood. That was back in August, the year before the show. I think a lot of people bought tickets to that show because they thought Rock Roman was happening. I thought it was happening. I worked there at the time. I thought Rock Roman was happening in Hollywood. And it didn't. And that's okay. Because we got Cody Roman 1, and I didn't have a problem with how things went down. I was prepared for Roman to lose that night. A lot of people were. I was sitting in a room. Here's a little insight. I used to watch those shows with the cast of The Bump because we would do a post show, and it would air the next day. And a big responsibility I took on in that show was to sit there on a Sunday night before The Bump, and I would write out the questions for the talent we were going to have on The Bump that week. And my job in my head, I always made it my responsibility, my job was when someone appeared on The Bump, whether they were top of the card, their first appearance on the show, an NXT talent, my thought was always the same. How do we get them over? How do we make them sound bigger? How do I get people to see them on the bump and watch on Monday, Tuesday, Friday, pay-per-views, premium live events? That was my job. I'm part of the machine. I am state media. We're all playing a role. So I sat there watching that pay-per-view that night, and I start writing questions for Cody. And I was excited to talk to Cody. And then he lost, and I laughed, and I went, oh, this is going to piss so many people off in the best way possible. I was not rooting for chaos just because. The first thing I thought of, and I know not everybody will get this reference, but I'll explain it, was when Naito lost to Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, and it seemed like it was his crowning moment. It was like when Okada lost to Tanahashi the first time at Wrestle Kingdom and went out crying. It seemed like the story was going to end, but he wasn't quite ready yet. And I think that was the story that I enjoyed with Cody. Now, you could say, man, I was so tired of Roman at that point in time. But I think we all know Cody's gotten bigger and only gotten better, and people were more into the story as it went. It didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt him at all. I know they can't really talk about Brock Lesnar right now, but you know what? That run he had with Brock was great. That handshake was a big deal. The tag stuff with Jay was what it was, but Cody came into himself and developed a plan, and we got the payoff that we did at WrestleMania this year. So, having said all that, for someone that close to The Rock to throw Cody under the bus in any way, shape, or form, I don't care if he wasn't trying to. He said what he said. Cody should not have to respond to someone like that. He is heading into Saudi this weekend. He's got a match with Logan Paul. That's a very Saudi match. They're doing a good enough job with it. Logan Paul's doing a great job in his role. I think he's only gotten more comfortable. But to show you the kind of guy that Cody is and gets what the job is, Cody is going to go to Saudi in the next day or two. He gets up this morning and goes on Busted Open. He didn't have to do that. This is a very tough week, I will tell you, from trying to get people on this show right here or trying to get people on the bump those weeks. A lot of travel, very hard to do. I appreciated anybody from the company who could join us in those weeks to give us any part of time. Cody gets that. A lot of people should understand that what Cody is doing as a champion, as a face of the company, you should take notes. The Miz is that way. There's a lot of people. Drew McIntyre is that way. I love Drew McIntyre. I consider him a friend. Everything he did for WWE during the pandemic, what he did for the bump, what he did for me, that goes a long way. That guy is doing his best work of his career and earned it because he went through some shit to get there. He had to carry the company at a time when it wasn't easy to carry the company, and he did it well, and he's getting to do the right stuff now. But you know what he did? He always made himself available. He always put himself out there. Cody does that.